At my cousin's baby shower, my aunt looked me in the eyes and said, "We didn't think you'd want to be in the photos." That single sentence cracked something in me. I'd been up since 6 in the morning, frosting 60 cupcakes with hands that smelled like vanilla and burned sugar. I was the one who designed the invitations, hand-cut the little paper pacifiers, and even dropped $640 out of my own pocket to save the catering when the original vendor canceled last minute. I thought I was showing love. I thought that meant something. But before we even get to that awful moment, let me rewind. My name's Vanessa. I'm 35 years old, a plus-size woman from Columbus, Ohio. People call me the reliable one, the girl who always brings the perfect gift, the one who offers you a ride home in the rain, the one with a camera in her hand, making sure everyone else looks good and is remembered. That's been my role for as long as I can remember, behind the lens, behind the scenes, making sure everyone else shines. So when my cousin announced she was pregnant, I was genuinely happy for her. I volunteered right away to help with the baby shower. And when I say volunteered, I mean I practically became the event planner. I was designing the pastel-themed invites on Canva at midnight. I was baking until my hands cramped. I was glue-gunning decorations while watching reruns on Netflix. And you know what? I didn't even mind, because I thought, this time they'll see me. This time they'll appreciate me. The morning of the shower, I got there earlier than anyone else. The hall was empty, just rows of tables and chairs, smelling faintly of bleach. I steamed every tablecloth, burnt my thumb in the process, but I kept going. I strung up balloon arches until my arms ached. I even called in a favor from a coworker who does floral arrangements on the side to make the place look magical. By the time my aunt and cousin arrived, everything sparkled. Guests walked in later and gasped like it was a Pinterest board come to life. And I stood there, sweaty and proud, thinking, I did this for them. I made this perfect. As people arrived, I was darting around, camera in hand, catching the laughter, the hugs, the goofy little games, and the whole time, in the back of my mind, I thought, soon we'll take those family photos. Soon, I'll step into the frame for once, and maybe I won't just be the helper. Maybe I'll be seen as part of the family. But here's the truth. No one tells you. Sometimes the people you sacrifice for are the very ones who make sure you stay invisible. You ever pour yourself into something, your money, your time, your literal blood from a burnt finger, and then realize the people you did it for don't even see you? That was me the morning of the baby shower. My alarm went off at 6 a.m., and I didn't even groan. I jumped up like it was Christmas morning because I wanted everything perfect for my cousin. 60 cupcakes cooling on the counter, my kitchen fogged up from the oven, buttercream smeared on my arms like war paint. I loaded up my little Honda Civic like I was moving houses, balloon arches stuffed in the back seat, trays of food balanced on the floorboard, decorations stacked to the roof. I'd already spent $640 covering last-minute catering because the vendor bailed. That money was supposed to be for my own bills, but hey, family first, right? When I pulled up to the venue, no one was there yet, just me, keys jingling in the silence. I unlocked, turned on the lights, and started working. Streamers, tablecloths, little favors with handwritten tags. I thought, this will show them. They'll see how much I care. They'll see me. But the whispers started early. My aunt walked in, and the first thing out of her mouth wasn't thank you. It was, don't you think the cupcakes are a little much? People don't need that many. My cousin gave me a smile that didn't reach her eyes. My other cousin asked if I had remembered to bring plates, like I wasn't already breaking my back. And still, I kept smiling, because that's who I am. The reliable one, the helper. As the guests began to arrive, the room transformed. Laughter bounced off the walls. Kids ran around with balloon strings tangled around their wrists. My cousin, the glowing mom-to-be, took center stage. People swarmed her, showering her with compliments and gifts. And me? I was invisible, just a blur refilling the punch bowl, sneaking cupcakes onto empty trays, fixing a lopsided centerpiece before anyone noticed. I brushed off the prickle in my chest. They'll see me, I told myself. They'll notice. But when the music lowered and someone yelled, family photos, my heart skipped. Finally, this was my moment to step into the frame, not behind it. I grabbed my phone, smiled, and started walking toward the group. I could already picture it, me standing shoulder to shoulder with everyone. Proof I belonged, proof I was part of this. And then it happened. My aunt turned her head, caught sight of me, and smiled, that gentle, false smile that carried more sharpness than kindness. Vanessa, honey, we didn't think you'd want to be in the photos. My feet froze. I blinked, stunned, as laughter bubbled up around me. Someone chimed in, light-hearted, dismissive. You're always behind the camera anyway. I felt it like a slap. Everyone shuffled tighter, pressing into each other, smiles wide as the flash went off. And me? I stood there, chest caving in, cupcakes still staining my hands. For the first time in my life, I didn't say a word. I didn't protest. I didn't force my way in. I just disappeared. But what none of them knew, what I hadn't even realized myself yet, was that silence. That silence was the beginning of something they'd never see coming. You know that feeling when you're in a room full of people you've known your whole life, yet somehow you feel like an outsider? That's exactly how I felt that day, standing there with frosting still on my hands, watching my family pose without me. Their laughter echoed, their smiles wide, and I was just background noise. I told myself, don't make a scene, Vanessa. Don't give them the satisfaction of thinking you care too much. But inside, it was like someone had flipped a switch. Every memory of being too much or not enough came rushing back at once. Like the Christmas when I bought everyone gifts and no one bothered to wrap anything for me, or the time my cousin got engaged and asked me to take the photos, only to crop me out of every single candid shot where I accidentally appeared. My pulse was racing, but I plastered on a smile and walked toward the dessert table, pretending to fuss with the cupcakes. I felt like I was in a movie. Everything slowed down. My aunt whispered to another cousin while sneaking glances at me. My uncle leaned back in his chair like he was too full, too content to even notice I was still standing there. And then then, click, another photo, another smile, another frame without me. I couldn't breathe. I stepped outside into the crisp Ohio air, clutching my phone like it was a lifeline. My fingers shook as I scrolled through the family group chat, where the pictures were already being uploaded, me nowhere to be found. Just the perfect family moment. Perfect without me. For a split second, I thought about storming back in, about grabbing the mic they rented for the silly baby shower games, and saying, "Do you even realize who made this happen? Who paid for your food? Who hung the damn balloon arch?" I pictured the gasps, the silence, the awkward shuffle of people not knowing where to look. But instead, something darker took root. A quiet, calculated thought. They don't want me in the frame? Fine. Let's see how they look without my work propping them up. I went back in, picked up my camera bag, and forced a smile. "I'm not feeling well," I lied, kissing my cousin's cheek. She barely noticed, too busy showing off the diaper cake I had spent hours assembling. I walked out slowly, deliberately, every step heavy but strangely freeing. By the time I reached my car, I had made my decision. That night, every single photo I had taken, hundreds of carefully lit, beautifully staged moments, vanished from the shared album with one click. Deleted, gone. And then came the pings, one after another. "Hey, where are the photos? Vanessa, we need those for the thank you cards. Why did you delete everything?" I stared at my screen, my heart hammering, but instead of answering, I opened my laptop. The words spilled out like a flood I'd been holding back for years, framed out of the family. I wrote about the cupcakes, the balloon arches, the catering bill. I wrote about being told, gently, falsely, that I didn't belong in the frame, and with every word, the pressure in my chest loosened. When I hit publish, I didn't expect anyone to read it, but then the comments started. Strangers, dozens of them, hundreds. I felt this. My family did the same thing. "You're not alone, Vanessa." My hands trembled as I read them, but not from fear anymore, from power, from being seen. That night, I realized something terrifying and thrilling at the same time. My family may have erased me from their frame, but I had the lens, and with it, I could create a whole new picture. I couldn't stop replaying that recording in my head. Every word, every laugh, every betrayal. My wife and her so-called best friend plotting, while I was breaking my back to keep us afloat. The next morning, I sat at work pretending everything was normal, but under the desk, I was quietly transferring every cent from our joint savings into a private account I had opened months earlier. My hands shook, not from guilt, but from adrenaline. I knew I had to play this game smarter than both of them. I couldn't let them suspect a thing. At home, I acted calm, cooked dinner, kissed her on the cheek, asked about her day. Inside, though, I was boiling. She smiled at me like I was the biggest fool alive, not knowing I had already set the chessboard for the final move. That weekend, she told me she was going shopping with her friend, but I knew better. I pretended to be too tired to join, feigning exhaustion. As soon as the door shut, I followed quietly, carefully, my car staying several blocks behind hers. My heart pounded like a drumline. Every turn they took, I took, and finally, they pulled into a hotel parking lot. I froze, gripping the steering wheel until my knuckles turned white. Seeing her step out, dressed to impress, laughing with him, was the kind of heartbreak that burns rather than breaks. I wasn't just watching her betray me, I was watching the life I sacrificed for go up in flames. I snapped pictures, hold undeniable proof. My phone shook in my hand as I clicked each one. Her betrayal wasn't just emotional anymore, it was documented, frozen in time. She thought she was being clever, but she didn't realize she had already walked into a trap I was building piece by piece, and I knew exactly how I was going to play them. The pictures burned in my phone like live ammunition. Every glance at them reminded me of the war I was about to start, only this time I wasn't going to lose. I drove home before she did, walked inside like nothing happened, and forced myself to casually toss my shoes near the door, just the way I always did. When she returned hours later, her hair tousled, her perfume stronger than usual, I smiled and asked, "How was shopping?" She didn't even blink. She lied right to my face, saying she couldn't find anything she liked. That was the moment I knew I couldn't drag this out much longer. If I stayed silent too long, I'd suffocate in my own rage, but I needed the legal edge. So the next day, during my lunch break, I drove to a law firm downtown, a place I'd researched meticulously. Sitting across from the divorce attorney, I laid out everything. The recordings, the photos, the bank transfer. She raised her eyebrows as I slid my phone across the table. "This," she said, tapping the screen, "is bulletproof. If you play your cards right, not only do you protect your assets, but she'll walk away with nothing." I felt a surge of vindication. Months of her gaslighting me, dismissing my long hours, treating me like a background character in my own marriage. All of it was about to implode, but the lawyer's next words sent a chill down my spine. "Timing is everything. If she suspects you know, she'll strike first. She might try to drain the accounts, twist the story, even paint you as the bad guy. You need to stay calm, calculated. Do not let her see you crack." That night, I sat at the dinner table, eating the meal she cooked. My fork scraped the plate while my mind spun with strategy. She talked about trivial things, TV shows, her friend's rough time, the possibility of a trip to Vegas with her girls. I nodded, playing the devoted husband, while inside I was counting down. But then, something slipped. She looked at me a second too long, her smile a little too sharp, almost as if she was testing me. My stomach twisted. Did she sense it? Did she know I was watching her every move? Later that night, as she showered, her phone buzzed on the nightstand. A message lit up the screen. "Same time next week? Can't wait to see you again." His name. My jaw clenched so hard it hurt. I didn't touch the phone. I didn't need to. Instead, I lay down, pretending to sleep, while rage and adrenaline raced through me. The walls of our bedroom felt like a battlefield. She climbed into bed, minutes later, curling against me like nothing was wrong. And in that moment, I realized this wasn't just betrayal. This was war, and I was finally ready to strike. The night I put my plan into action, every sound felt like an alarm. My hands shook as I logged into into our joint account, transferring the funds piece by piece into one I had opened secretly weeks ago. Each transaction felt like ripping another stitch out of our marriage. By the time I finished, every penny, our savings, the house money, the emergency fund was gone from her reach. But I wasn't done. I slipped the divorce papers into my briefcase, ready for the moment she walked back through the door after her girls' night. My heart pounded as I checked my phone. Her location was at a hotel just off the interstate. It was the final confirmation I needed. I rehearsed in my head how I'd confront her, or maybe I wouldn't. Maybe silence would be the loudest scream. But as midnight crept closer, I heard a car pulling into the driveway. My chest tightened. This was it. My palms were sweating, but my mind was sharp. The front door creaked, and her laughter spilled in before she did. Not just hers, his too. The man she promised she'd never see that way. They stumbled inside, thinking I was asleep. I froze in the shadows of the hallway, every muscle tense. Their whispers turned into giggles, their giggles into moans. I clenched my jaw, blood boiling, but I stayed hidden. They had no idea I was there, watching their betrayal unfold in the home I had built. My fists trembled, but I forced myself to remember. Rage wasn't my weapon tonight. Patience was. I tightened my grip on the divorce papers, my secret weapon. Tonight wasn't about revenge. It was about ending the game. But as I listened to them moving closer to our bedroom, one thought chilled me. If they made it upstairs, would I have the strength to stay silent? The house seemed to shrink around me, every second louder than the last. My heart raced, my mind screamed. Should I step out now and shatter their fantasy? Or should I wait until morning and deliver the blow in cold daylight? And then, her voice carried through the dark hallway. He'll never see this coming. He's too busy working to even notice. That was it, my breaking point. I stepped out from the shadows, the divorce papers clutched in my hand like a weapon. My voice cut through their whispers, calm, steady, but laced with ice. Enjoying yourselves? They froze. Her eyes went wide, his face drained of color. For the first time, I felt the power shift. It wasn't me caught off guard anymore. It was them. What are you doing here? She stammered, fumbling with her words. He took a step back, trying to shield himself with false bravado, muttering, "Man, you don't understand." But I did. Oh, I understood perfectly. I held up the papers and tossed them onto the coffee table with a thud. Divorce, already filed. Everything's done. Every dollar is gone from the account. You don't get to spend my money on your little games. Her jaw dropped. His smirk vanished. For the first time, they looked cornered. She lunged for the papers, but I blocked her path. My heart was pounding so loud I thought it might burst. But outwardly, I kept my voice calm, calmer than I'd ever been. You thought I was blind, that I'd work myself to death while you mocked me behind my back. But I heard it all, every word. And tonight, you finally get to see what happens when the quiet husband stops being quiet. The silence that followed was suffocating. I could hear her breathing heavy, could see his fists clenching like he wanted to fight. Think carefully, I warned, staring him down. One move and the police will hear everything. I've got proof, recordings, bank statements. You want to throw your life away for her lies? Be my guest. He hesitated, then backed away, muttering something under his breath as he slipped out the door. Coward, that left just her and me. She tried to cry, to spin a story, to paint herself as the victim. Please, you don't understand. It just happened. I didn't mean. I cut her off with a single sentence. Save it for the judge. Her face twisted with rage when she realized there was nothing left for her to take. No money, no control, no second chance. She stormed out, slamming the door so hard, the walls shook. And then, silence. But it wasn't peaceful silence. No, it was the silence right before the storm, because I knew she wasn't done. Not yet. Somewhere deep inside, I felt it. She was going to fight back. I stood in that courtroom, the tension so thick you could feel it pressing on your chest. My wife sat across from me, her smug expression finally faltering as the evidence was laid bare. Screenshots, financial transfers, the bank records showing I had quietly secured our savings before she could squander them. Her best friend, the one who had helped orchestrate her affair, tried to avoid my gaze, her face pale, realizing she too might be pulled into the fallout. The judge's words struck like thunder. This marriage is dissolved. Assets will remain in Mr. Carter's possession. Custody of shared property lies solely with him. It was final. Her betrayal had ended, not with me broken, but with me free. But the suspense didn't end there. Days after the trial, I discovered anonymous messages sliding into my inbox, taunts, threats, even vague promises that I'd regret exposing her. At first, I thought it was just her rage boiling over, until I realized these weren't from her. They were from someone else, someone I hadn't considered. Her lover, he wasn't just angry. I'd taken away her financial safety net. He was furious that I had humiliated her, and now I wasn't just facing emotional betrayal. I was facing a new danger, one that stalked me outside the courthouse, one that knew where I lived. For the first time in this whole mess, I wasn't just fighting for freedom. I was fighting for survival. The first night I got those messages, I barely slept. Every creak in the house, every shadow across the blinds. It all felt like a threat closing in. My ex-wife's lover wasn't just bitter. He was reckless, unpredictable, and I knew if I underestimated him, I'd pay for it. So I did something different. I didn't hide. I prepared. I installed cameras around the house, notified the police, and even had a friend stay nearby in case things escalated. My pulse stayed high for days, waiting for him to make a move. And when he finally did, it was almost cinematic. It was 2:17 a.m. I heard the crunch of gravel outside, then a faint jingle, metal against glass. I looked at the security feed, and there he was, hood pulled over his head, crowbar in hand, trying to pry open the back door. Adrenaline surged. My instincts screamed at me to panic, but I forced myself steady. This was it, the moment I would decide if I'd keep living in fear or take my life back. I called the cops, whispering details while keeping my eyes on the screen. The sirens in the distance must have tipped him off because he bolted into the night like a coward. And just like like that, he was gone. But the story didn't end with me hiding in my own house. No, I went on the offensive. I filed for a restraining order, handed every shred of evidence to the police, and pressed charges for harassment and attempted break-in. He wasn't just a shadow anymore, he was a name on a report, a man forced to face the consequences. The day the restraining order was granted, I felt lighter than I had in years. The marriage was over, the affair exposed, the threats neutralized, and me, I wasn't the broken man I feared I'd become. I was sharper, stronger, free. I took the money I'd protected and invested in myself, therapy, travel, even a new apartment with sunlight pouring through the windows. I rebuilt my life brick by brick, no longer carrying the weight of betrayal. The final time I saw my ex-wife was purely accidental at the grocery store, of all places. She looked smaller somehow, worn down by her own choices. Our eyes met, but for the first time, I didn't feel bitterness or rage, just clarity. Because betrayal might have been the storm that wrecked my past, but empowerment was the foundation of my future. And I walked away with my head high, never looking back.